Hey guys, before we start, a quick shout out to Alpha Dog Nutrition for sponsoring this podcast. Alpha Dog products are now available at dusupply.com, and you can use code ALPHADOG15 at checkout for 15% off and a credit for free shipping to try it yourself. Now let's get you to your podcast.
Welcome to my podcast, where we are going to talk about a lifestyle with dogs and throw in a few life lessons along the way. Whether you're a hound hunter, bird dog enthusiast, running setters, pointers, retrievers, or a flat-out running dog junkie, this podcast is for you. I am your host, Heath Hyatt, a certified law enforcement canine trainer with over 3 decades of personal and professional training and handling experience. It's time for me to pay it forward. So grab your leads, lace up those boots, and come and join me on this lifelong process of teaching, training, and learning. Are you looking to unlock your dog's full potential and give them the best nutrition possible for peak performance? Then look no further. Inukshuk has what you're looking for. Inukshuk's nutrient-dense formulas are crafted to keep your dog's energy high and performance top-notch. Packed with premium proteins and essential fats, Inukshuk delivers the balanced nutrition your dog needs to thrive. From hunting dogs to police canines, Inukshuk is trusted by professionals. Give your dog the power of peak performance with Inukshuk professional dog food. All right, I told you guys we was going to have a really good guest on here, and what I didn't tell you is we've had him on before, and we have so much stuff in common, you know, through the military. He's military, ex-military, handled dogs, where I'm law enforcement. I mean, he's training dogs professionally now, bird dogs. If you want, Justin Rigney said this. We were just talking about Justin. Justin Rigney said this. If you want to find out what kind of dog trainer you are, you start doing lessons to just civilians. I don't know. What would you call it, Randall? What do you call that terminology?
Man,
head owner.
If you really want to see how good a dog trainer you are, go train pets.
Yes.
Go train the doodles, man. Like there's something to be said for the people that can handle the really spicy, kind of cloudy brained, like working dogs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the clear-minded, high drive working dogs are honestly not difficult. Same thing with the bird dogs. You know, a good, clear-minded, high drive bird dog, not hard, but go get Fluffy from down the street that has no food drive, super high on the Maslow pyramid, and everything's been for free and freaks out on pressure, and go train that dog. You'll learn something.
It's so funny that you're just talking about spicy. I know you just come out of the gym, and one of our coaches at CrossFit, that's what his terminology is. He'll say, "Now this workout's a little spicy, though. This is a little spicy," and we crack up and laugh about it. But he uses that terminology a lot. So you're coming from the gym. I know I did a podcast with HLE and Luke. I got back in the gym just to make myself feel better, and I needed to lose a little bit of weight. And now that hunting season's rolled around, we're just going to kind of use that as a segue. Hunting season's rolled around. I've been doing CrossFit since June, so it's December, and I've been pretty religious about 3 days a week. I'd like to get 4 days in or 5, but my schedule just like I'm pushing myself to get 3. A couple of weeks I've only got 2 days in, and I can feel the difference in the 2 days and the 3 days. But the reason I want to talk about that real quick today. So Wednesday, I had an 11.5-mile hike. And when we talk about hunting, and it's going to go into your bird dog stuff too, Randall. When we talk about hunting, like it's not just walking out a logging road or on a track or a paved area. Like it was 11 miles of Appalachian mountains. Now, yes, I did hit the AT, and for the guys that don't know the terminology, we call that the Appalachian Trail. We always say the AT. I did hit the Appalachian Trail for probably half of that. I know it was 5 miles down, and I made a loop on another trail. So probably 6.5 miles of that was on the trail. And I ended up doing 11.2 miles that day. But the reason I talk about this and how important physical fitness is, I mean, I know you're an ex-Army Ranger, and that's your lifestyle. Like during those periods, that's what you do, right?
Yep. I mean,
so
I've kind of gotten back to that lifestyle a little bit, you know, starting to get back into teaching some of the tactical stuff. You know, I'm contracting for a company called Alpha Group Industries, and they're really good. There's a lot of like really professional folks that are helping stand this company up. Really talented shooters, demo guys. I'm the K9 guy. You know, all of us are tactically sound. So, you know, just for a few months now, getting back in the lifestyle, shooting, carrying heavy weight, getting back in the gym, you know, just back to basically who I was. And it feels good. I'm not going to lie.
So Wednesday, I made that hike, and I did get winded a couple times because I was really trying to cover ground to get caught up with the dogs. I mean, I pulled the mountain 2 different times. And when I say mountain, we're about 3,800 to 4,200 feet, somewhere in there. I pulled the mountain 2 different times, and we get up. I get all the dogs caught, and I realize I'm using muscles that I'm not using in CrossFit. Like, and we always say, you know, and I mean, I know you're hiking with the bird dogs. Like, it's a different kind of fit being an outdoorsman. Like, yeah, I had some tiredness in. Now, I'm not like my CrossFit workouts are. I'm trying to complete them, get all the reps in, get all the stuff done. I'm not banging out a bunch of weights like some of them younger guys. I just can't do it at my age. But I'm just trying to do my best and get through the workouts without scaling. And that's kind of where I'm at now. I'm not scaling. I'm getting through the workouts. I'm not at the bottom of the pack anymore. Definitely not at the front of the pack. I'm kind of in the middle. But I was sitting there catching my breath, and I'd sit down on a rock, and I got stiff, and I'm like, "Whoo! I don't know. This CrossFit ain't helping me out too much." Like, it's such a different lugging through the woods. You know, is just a different workout. That's what I was saying. I guess all the rambling I did. It's a different workout. It's a different muscle set. I feel good. My legs were under me. My legs didn't get tired, but my body got tired, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, you know, just from my background, right? You know, there for a while, we all went through the CrossFit phase back in the early 2010s era, right? And we kind of noticed the same thing of like, hey, this is great. You know, we can move some weight, do some functional things, but it's not helping us carry weight and move long distances. And you know, there's some core stuff in there, some back stuff in there, a lot of hip flexor stuff, and things that you just aren't working in endurance capacities. You're working it more in like a high intensity focus. So, you know, and I'm no fitness expert. Like I'm not a physical fitness coach. I know what I know from working there and going through some programs, but the only thing that you know, you can't replace running 5 miles with anything else. Like you just got to go run the 5 miles. You know, you can't replace carrying heavy weight with anything, maybe sled tracks, but you just got to go carry the heavy weight, man, and build that endurance and teach your body how to use your different sources of energy and reserves and things like that, and know how to fuel yourself as you're going through those things. And that was a really big thing I learned, you know, drinking water, rotating between that and something like, you know, some sort of athletic drink of choice.
Gatorade.
There's plenty of powder. Gatorade. There's some really good powders out there that are, I like Quick Drop, right? Something like that. So I alternate between those two. You know, every 15 minutes I'm drinking one. Next 15 minutes I'm drinking another one. Every hour, we're going for a protein-based thing, and then I'm going for something sugary, right? Something with a lot of electrolytes in it. So, rotating all those things and figuring out what your body specifically needs is big, and that'll keep you in the field longer. In Montana, I was definitely doing that when I was walking a lot, rotating every dog in and out, getting all the bird dogs out, and it was hot. So I was definitely doing those things while I was out there. Down here where I'm doing quick day hunts, it's not quite as bad. But certainly on those, road trip hunts that I take with these dogs, were a little more nutrition focused.
Yeah, so it was cold. It was 16 degrees Wednesday morning. I bundled up pretty good. I always put my moisture wicking stuff on. I've learned that that's a huge thing, especially when you're walking a lot, not to get wet. And I run off and left my water in the seat of my truck. Like, I could have knocked myself in the head for that, because I got down in there and started pulling them out the second time. My lips were dry, and I'm like, oh, Lord. But anyway, I left my drink. I did have a couple protein bars when I did that. So I was trying to, I had the right thought process. I just ran off and left what I should have. And I wanted to ask you, because I've always been interested in this, and I don't know if you've tried it or not. Have you tried any of the Mountain Op stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate it. I don't see anything wrong with it. There are other options out there. Like, I'm not carrying protein bars, right? I'm not carrying things like that. A bunch of Snickers bars will get you a long way. They really will.
I love them.
I know.
That's one of my favorites. Yeah.
I know, like myself, like I carry Twizzlers, right? I carry peanut butter. I carry sometimes beef jerky. And guys that have walked, I mean, long distances, 40 miles, carrying 80 to 120 pounds nonstop, right? And they're eating Snickers bars and Twizzlers and pickles. Pickles are really big for the
for cramps.
Yeah. So there are other cheaper options that, if you look at these things that will make do. But there's some really good, fitness brands out there that are specifically dialed for those things, and they're great. They're really great. But there are other things that you can do as well.
I like the cost efficient ones myself.
Yeah. Well, and it's obtainability, instead of having to order something or go to a specific store to get it. I mean, I can go get these items anywhere. So just things to know in the back of your brain, for some of the stuff that I was doing in my previous job, where hey, I can't just stop at GNC and get this stuff. I need to be able to access something or know what I'm looking for wherever I'm going. So,
Well, nice. All right, so we got to get off the working out and get into dog training. So I guess let me do the formal introduction, Randall. So this is Randall Lykins. He's got Liberty Canine down around Columbus, Georgia. We just talked about it. He's an ex-Ranger, military canine handler. We talked about training before in our last podcast. You can go look it up. We just looked how we bridge. Randall and I talked about like how we take our training that we do here and incorporate it into our worlds, which mine is the hound hunting and his is the bird dogs. And he was doing a forced fetch, which for a bird dog, people kind of like, what? But man, I've been watching your reels and your stuff, and I mean, people's doing it, or we're doing it. I haven't seen it here lately since you went through the school, which is why I've got him on here, because this is what we're going to talk about.
Right. Yeah. I mean, man, I've done a few force fetches lately, and all of them a little different, right? Some of them the unforced force fetch NEPOPO style, which is great. It's really thorough. You get an active dog hunting for behavior, driving into behavior. We can build our cues and pressures really cleanly. But I had one recently, man, that didn't suit him, right? And that's where, I went back to some bite dog stuff and went to in drive and built everything off of being in drive, just like you would bite development, just instead of a sleeve, it was a bird. And I've done a few dogs that way, and it works. It does work. If you are familiar with that process, you totally know how to build your cue off of it. You can put pressure to it, and then eventually we have it on demand. But we keep the dog in a high state of drive and high spirits the entire time, and just slowly start overlaying things. And it's worked out really well. I mean, my personal dog, that's how I did him, right? I did not do a formal force fetch. I did not do a UFF with him. It was all bite work, light, style stuff, and we modify it. It's very similar to bite development, but not necessarily exactly the same. But that's how I did him, and we prize won him in Napa this year, going to the Invitational next year. So yeah, dog loves to retreat.
Nice. So, and I'm trying to recall our conversation last time. We talked about the difference in training dogs in drive and out of drive. I think that was a topic you and I had hit on.
Yeah, I think we did a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big fan of training in drive. Right?
Mm-hmm.
If I can train in drive, I'm going to train in drive. If I'm out of drive, I'm probably doing duration, trying to settle down some pet that's a little crazy, or we're capping, we're putting a lid on it and saying, hey, that's enough. Put the lid on the pressure cooker and bottle up all that drive, and then we'll let you express it in a productive manner. But we're not just going to let you waste energy. But Pat Nolan says it, train and drive.
So just for, because we're in the hound world, or I mean, I'm assuming I probably have a couple bird dog guys. Just now explain what that means, like, so everybody has an understanding. You and I know it's the same terminology we use, but just so everybody understands what in drive means, because I talk about a lot with me doing my trash breaking. Like, there's a difference in breaking a dog not stimulated and the dog stimulated. Like, the dog stimulated takes a lot more to get him to change that behavior than it does when he's not.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're talking about, a dog that's just exploring his environment, not necessarily on a track, not in prey, stumbles across a non-target odor that you're not desiring, and you can maybe use some sort of operant conditioning or aversive to, decrease the likelihood that he wants to pursue that, versus a dog that is hot on a track, that is trash. He's after it. He maybe saw it, and he's now in pursue and fight and kill mode. And that's two different things. If you're going to use a burst of pressure to break that, which I would say most people would, it's going to take you a lot more, right? Once they enter prey lock, it's a totally different ball game. So,
well, it's funny you brought that up, because let me ask you a question on how you would fix this. Because I did a podcast with George Lambert here a month ago, and George hunts dogs for people. That's kind of what he does. And he had this dog. He called him number 12. That was the number of collar he put on him, but he called him number 12. And he said around the house the dog was fine. He could recall him, no issues. He said when he went out to hunt, you had to keep an eye on him, because when you let him out, so kind of set up the scenario. We let our dogs out, like when we go to our area where we're going to hunt, a lot of people will let their dogs get out of the truck and clean out and do their business and whatever. And then they'll either put the dogs up on top of the truck or back in the truck to go into exactly where they're going to hunt. And he said in that situation, he said, if you didn't keep an eye on that dog, like, he'd slip off. And if you caught him slipping off and tried to use pressure, a lot of times he would fight it. So if he got to running off game and you tried to correct that behavior, the owner had already tapped out his pressure. So the dog, he just kept going, just fought it, and took him, so it was hard. So I give him what I thought. Let's just, while we're talking about this, let me get your thoughts, because a different perspective is always good.
Yeah, I would argue possibly, or at least come to the thought theory that maybe our cue wasn't built very clean. Our pressures weren't taught very well. That pressure language of how to turn it off was not there. And then got into a position where the dog is now in drive and pursuing prey of some sort, and ended up negatively reinforcing that dog into the behavior even harder than we did punishing that behavior. And that's a key thing with the versus, man, is I'm not injecting myself, right? I'm not saying anything. It's the hand of God's coming down, and it's not me. I don't want it to be associated with me. When the dog turns around and comes back to me, I'm like, hey, buddy, how are you? Like, what
That's
happened?
right. We're glad to see you.
Yeah, I'm happy. And the dog's like, hey, man, did you know over there, like that raccoon track, it tastes like lightning, right? But that only works if you've got good, clean cues that you've gone through the process with. We've overlaid pressure. We've taught them correctly. There's some incentive to come back and return, and you go through that formal process of teaching a quality recall. Because once you enter prey into the equation, you can bet your pressures are going to go up. So that would just be my thought, that that's kind of how that unfolded.
Yes. Yeah.
When I'm breaking things like that, I want to isolate, one, the odor, and two, the behavior. So I want a sterile area that I know for a fact my target odor is not there. So if you're hunting bears, or you're hunting deer, or you're hunting hogs, whatever your target odor is, I'm going somewhere where that is not. I, with 99% certainty, can guarantee that it's not here. And then I'll introduce my non-target odors, my trash odors that I don't want the dog around, in a calm environment. And I'll allow them to satisfy curiosity, go investigate it. This is where your reversives can come in, right? Where now I know we're clean. I'm not going to accidentally punish target odor. Dog engages non-target odor, and now you can give him the what for and know that you're clean and you're breaking that one thing and not hurting your other, right? And those pressures will be lower in that sterile environment. So hopefully we can get the concept through to the dog on a lower pressure scale. But again, I'm not speaking, I'm not talking. I don't want the dog in drive. It's just simply satisfying his own curiosity. He's investigating, and then boom, hey,
that's right.
I don't like that.
Yeah.
And slowly we can progress that into more and more engaging environments, right? Where instead of just being in the backyard, maybe we're at a park. Now from a park, maybe we start at the national forest at the parking area, and then progress until we're at a turnout location where it's, hey, I think I can go hunting right now. This could be possible. Oh, there's that raccoon odor. I don't like that, because we're bear hunting and I don't want this. Or there's that coyote track. I don't want anything to do with that. The real key here is if you can set it up right, and this is a process, right? If you can set it up so that we can give them the opportunity on the non-target odor, whether we have to correct or not, hopefully they disengage on their own. They go, hey, I don't want anything to do with that. And then very quickly get onto target odor and start down that path, right? So that setting those things up takes time. And it does take a lot of effort, if you're going to do something like that. But there's other ways to go about it, but that's probably the fastest way to go about it.
So let me ask you this before we move on. So my theory, and this is, I do exactly what you say. I try to eliminate the target odor. I will spend hours and hours riding around and put seeing. And so I see the deer. Let's just use deer for example, because in my world, that's the easiest thing. I see a deer. I shoo it off. I make sure it's run off. So there's no prey standing there and the dog's seeing it run. And then I get the dogs out. And I'm like you. I don't say a word. I let them go. And as soon as I see that behavior, boom, then pressure. And they come back and I'm happy. And they're like, well, I didn't like that. And we get in the truck and we move on. But you can't do it continuously because then you're conditioning every time I get out of the truck, then I get zapped. Yeah. So I tell everybody, this is my opinion and it's mine alone. if my dogs are running trash, but I'm not 100% sure. Let's say that they go in here and they strike a track because I don't know what it is, and they take off running, but it's not running like a bear. It's making circles or it's doing something funky. And in my head, I'm going, that ain't right. That ain't right. I always err on the side of caution, and I go cut them off. I don't start to do the breaking then, because then it's too late. And that's my opinion. What do you think?
Yep. Yeah, man, if you're not sure, you can't correct it. Mm-mm. You're walking a really, really fine line right there. If I'm not 99% that it is a non-target odor, I'm not pushing buttons. I'm not saying anything. I will confirm what it is and then make my corrections. You know, the crappy part about that for tracking dogs is they've had a long amount of reinforcement being able to chase that game and satisfy their drives. So that reinforcement history is going to be hard to break. For the bird dogs, it's not so bad, right? Because our tracks are generally shorter, or our odor contacts and sequences are shorter. You know, they're only going to hit odor from so far and either terminate into a point or try to crash in on a skunk or a porcupine or rabbit or whatever it is. So generally those things are faster than for us. Most of the time we can see our dogs, or we're getting check-ins frequently. But for example, my puppy, right, he's 8-9 months old now, bird hunting the other day, and he jumped a deer, and he was like, well, heck yeah, I like this. You know, he's a little spitfire, so he was like, yep, I'm all about chasing this deer. And I didn't say a word. I did not say a word. I, you know, let him know that deer taste like car batteries. And he came back to me and was like, hey, man, I don't know if you know this. Don't go near deer. You know, they're no good.
That's right.
But he came back, and I'm happy with him. I didn't yell at him. I didn't punish him. I didn't say no. I didn't say whoa. You know, I let him figure that out on his own, because if he thinks that animal or odor gave him that correction, that's far more powerful than if I inject myself. If he believes that he gave himself that correction, that's even more powerful.
That's right.
So, and there's this whole theory, and I'm sure you know it too, superstitious learning or single event learning, where we make it either so great or so bad that it's only one time and the dog is into or out of that behavior.
Yeah.
So powerful stuff, man.
Yeah. Oh, we could talk about this all night, actually, but
yeah.
we didn't record this for that. So this is why I'm talking.
I would say, you know, real quick before we've talked a lot about aversives right now and using high levels of pressure, and that's not what dog training is about, right? There are moments where we need that, and there are times where those opportunities present themselves, and you can and should take advantage of them, but your dog's got to be prepared for it. You need to have good history with an e-collar where they understand pressure and they know what it means, so that the first time they feel that buzz isn't, you know, the hand of God coming down and striking them. We've got to prepare them for those things first.
Yeah. No, that's exactly. I mean, like I said, you're just reinforcing, you know, how I feel. But again, we see a lot of the same training. We see a lot of the same methods. Even though you're doing the birds and the pets, it all relates. And I wished more people would understand that. Like, you can take training from all types of facets, all types of disciplines, and incorporate it into your regiment if you just sit down and think about it, or look at the positives of it. But I mean, you know, you lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink.
No. I mean, there's a handful of us, more modern bird dog trainers, who are a little more vocal, and there's far more modern bird dog trainers. You know, there's a handful of us that are vocal about it and are trying to teach people and educate the masses. And if we can make some gains and help some people and their dogs, and help them understand cues and markers and pressures and drives and how to manage all that stuff better than, success on our part. So it's a big education solution that we're after, trying to help some of these people. Because at the end of the day, I want people to have better bird dogs. I want them to enjoy their time in the field better. I want them to get invited on more hunts. I want to compete against the best out there. Like when we go into NABDA, like I want to see, like IGP level obedience. Like that's the idea, is to help people get to that point. So.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I mean, if you can, one person, that's my thought, one person at a time, like help one person and hopefully they help a person and it just multiplies. So, we're all on the same page. Like, we get it. I get it. You get it. I wished everybody else got it, but some do and some don't. But anyway, so Randall, last time I had you on here, you were getting ready to start your silver NEPOPO. And and I know that you guys that are listening, you've heard me talk about NEPOPO, negative, positive, positive. You've heard me talk about Bart. I say Bellin, it's Bellon. I don't care how you pronounce it, Bart Bellin. Y'all heard me talk about him and some of the methods and stuff that he uses. But now I've only sat through a weekend class and numerous classes through the last 10 years of people that are teaching it. Randall has been actually hands-on in the class, and I want to pick your brain, and I want to know from the last time we talked, now that you've been through both series, the silver and the gold, how has your training changed? And if so, how?
Yeah. So I'll start this off with a caveat, right? There are people who are good at showing and demonstrating and explaining as they go. And then there are people who are really good at instructing and dictating and teaching that way. I am the first one. I like to have people in front of me. Let's see the dog. I'll talk you through the issues and things like that. So I will do my best to explain as much as I can thoroughly. But like I mentioned before we hopped on the podcast, I have a couple other guests for you. And the thing about NEPOPO is it's open to the end user, right? It's my interpretation of the system and how I apply it and what I think and what I'm taking away from it, right? So it's really good to hear from several different people within the system and what they find valuable and how they're explaining it and how they're using it. Because although we're all rooted in the same principles and techniques, everyone's kind of applying little different things to little different problem sets and attacking things a little differently and have ways of explaining things differently. And sometimes the way I say it may not register with the end user, the client or whoever, but the way someone else puts it will. So I would tell your listeners, if you're going to go down this rabbit hole of NEPOPO, branch out and listen to everyone. See what everyone has to offer. I mean, I've seen people that only do pets, and I picked things up from them. I've seen people that only do working canines, and I picked things up from them. People outside of this country, and picked up plenty from them. There's a handful of us in the bird dog world that are doing it now, and I learned from them as well. So it's all encompassing system. But I would say, has my training changed? Yes, right. In some ways, right. So I had been fortunate before I went to silver that I was taught and mentored by people within the system. So I was familiar with it, right. I understood the baseline concepts. I understood, some of those more basic principles of it. And like I said, I was watching all those people, listening to them, communicating with the friends of mine that were already in the system and learning from them. Going through silver, I would say it really rounded out my theoretical knowledge on dog training, filled in some gaps in that, genome, if you want to call it that, and provided clarity on some things of how to think about it or how to explain it better. That's what I got a lot out of that course, was how do I explain this better to my clients who have booked dogs with me, my hunting buddies who are trying to build a better dog, or people in my seminars. Like, how do I explain this more clearly to you so that it makes sense to you? And then going to gold, is hands-on application, right? So you're going to show up to, there's going to be a gold multiplicator there, someone who's been in the system, they've attended a minimum of 3 gold schools, and they're certified under the umbrella of the company to make more NEPOPO people. And they're great, right? I went with Justin and then Piotr, and they were phenomenal, right? A little, again, slightly different flavors, right? But still rooted in the same concept. So the way Justin might fix an issue may be different than the way Piotr does it, but the concepts are rooted in the same. And that's what I love about this system, is that generally everyone can explain down to the minor detail why they're doing something, what they want to get out of it, what their criteria is, how long their session's going to be. Are they going to change their criteria throughout? Are they going to change their reinforcement method throughout? Like, they're very thorough and thoughtful walking into a session. And I really like that. I enjoy that. I think that that's necessary if you want to see real progress. You've got to have an idea of where you're going to start, where you're going to end, how long you're going to be in there, what are you going to do if it starts coming off the rails, and if the dog's going to give you more, are you going to take advantage of it and move, or are you going to maintain where you're at? Are you going to change your tools throughout? Are you going to need to bring the dog into drive or out of drive? Like, and the beautiful thing about this system is it arms the end user with that ability to look at any dog and say, hey, I understand that these principles and methods and tools will result in these things 98% of the time. And that these tools, methods, and principles will result in this 98% of the time. And I say 98% because dogs are dogs, and every dog out there, there's one that will make a liar out of you, right?
Yes.
So you got to be on your toes and be ready for those dogs. But, I think Justin says it, where I think what he values most is the preparation for pressure in this system, which is, yeah, it's thorough. It really is. And, initially I was like, yeah, that probably is the most valuable thing in the system. And the more I do it, the more I think about it. Again, this is where it's open to the interpretation of the user. I think the thing that I find most valuable about it is that ability to look at any dog and say, hey, all right, I get it. We need to do X, Y, and Z to accomplish calm or settling, right? Or focus, or I need to build drive or enthusiasm or engagement. And you can adjust all these tools and techniques and dial it up and down like a rheostat, even throughout your session, right? So I think that's probably what I enjoy most about it.
Well, while you were talking, I was sitting here writing notes. Kept seeing you looking down. So, and you talked about your pet dog people. So I have dabbled in that a little bit. And I got so frustrated because one of the things that I had the issue with is consistency. People don't want to follow through. They want to do it 2 or 3 times, and then they think they have it. That's it. I got it. The dog performed well, and then they try to move on to the next step and the next step, and they're not consistent in their training. And I don't know why this correlates for me with NEPOPO. And it should be all training. It shouldn't be one method or methodology. But if you're not consistent in what you do, you're not going to have a finished product, period. And
right.
Is that when you're training the pet world, is that something that you find a commonality with those?
I am pretty selective on the clients that I take, right? I screen my clients pretty well. If I don't think that you're in it for the dog, and you're not a dog person who actually wants this animal to be a part of your life, and you want to be a part of their life, and you want to engage with them on a daily basis, then I'm not the guy for you, right? I am invested when I take a client. I'm invested in you. I'm invested in your dog. You're going to get me after training. Your dog's going to get me after training. I'm in. Like, when you buy into me, I buy into you and your dog. So I think that's step one for me. But so I don't have those issues as much, right? The consistency and getting folks to focus. And part of that is, throughout my program, on my weekly updates to folks, I'm brutally honest. Like, if the issues I'm seeing with your dog are your fault, I'm going to tell you, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it, right? We won't be rude. We'll be tactful,
right?
But I'll be blunt with you. Like, hey, you're the reason why your dog is this way, or it could just be the dog, right? Or it could be something else. And I'm pretty upfront and honest about those things. And I think where I get a lot of buy-in from my clients is that throughout those weekly updates, they're seeing, okay, hey, we've dissected everything. Here's the issues. Here's how we're going to attack it. Here's how we're going to fix it. Okay, we fixed this. Here's the next problem. Here's my plan to fix that. Here's things you need to consider moving forward. So I'm coaching them as we're going through the course, right? And then I have a very thorough go home lesson, very thorough, where we sit down, we go over operant classical conditioning, we go over some of the other techniques, we talk about all their tools and equipment that I've had them purchase for their dog, right? Some dogs need a pinch, some dogs need a slip, some dogs need both, some need an e-collar, some don't, so all those tools, and we're going to sit down and talk about them. We're going to talk about how to use them, how to fit them, when to use them. If I'm taking a dog downtown, am I going to go on an e-collar or am I going to go on a pinch? I'm probably going to go on a pinch because I'm not ever going to let my dog off leash, right? If I'm going to a state park, I'm probably going to go on an e-collar. So, like, here's things to consider and how you're going to use those tools appropriately. And then, I demo the dog clean in front of them. Hey, they are totally capable of accomplishing all these tasks. Now the onus is on you. Your dog obviously knows, and they're going to take advantage of you because you don't know. And that's why I'm here. I'm here to educate you. I'm here to teach you how to get your dog to do this exactly the way that I'm getting your dog to do this. And I think doing that in front of folks and showing them what their dog is capable of in the hands of a professional, and then turning around and handing them the leash very quickly, right? So my demo takes 2 minutes. And I turn around very quickly and hand the leash to them. And I say, go.
Do it.
All right. I start coaching them through it. And the coolest thing, man, is you see people start rough and then they just start climbing, right? And they get better and better and better and better. And then I have a lot of follow-up lessons after my board and trains, to make sure you're on the right path. Some dogs need them, some don't. Some owners need them, some don't. The hard-headed dogs that really like to push you and test the limits, generally see those folks come back for more lessons, which is totally fine. Like I said, once you buy into me, I buy into you and your dog. And then the other dogs that just go with the flow and they're like, yep, I got it. It's part of the program. I'm not particularly conflictual or can't manage my drive states. They're generally fine. That's generally how I go about it. And that's where I get my consistency from folks.
Yeah. And, you just said something that I have talked about a couple of times. Like, me personally, I like a dog that's in a calm mind because they're easy to train. You said that just a little while ago, but you talked about a dog that can't manage themselves. And I see that a lot in the hound world. And people, again, I see this when people are testing law enforcement dogs. They think that hyperactivity is drive, and it's not. It's craziness.
Man, can you say that again? For the bird dog people?
I see it it took me a while. I didn't understand it I didn't know about it until I don't know what class I was in or where I was at. I don't remember, but it hit me like a ton of bricks that, that those dogs that are, I call them out of control now, not high drive. That's what everybody said. Oh, that's a high drive dog. That's a high drive dog. We have that in the hound world too, that dogs that just can't shut down. Yeah. That's not a dog for me. Like, I don't want to have to deal. It's going to take me, it's going to take me extra training, extra work. And I don't know that I'll ever get that dog to where I want him, because I'm not that great a trainer. And I don't want to have to spend 90% of my time with that dog when I've got 4 more that I could spend 40% of the time and have them where I need them.
Yeah. It's a balance, right? I mean, it's always who needs more and who needs less. Mm-hmm. And the way I go about it is I just break it up into days. I'm like, hey man, I get it. You need more time. So I'm going to block off time in these throughout the days to give it to you. And then, hey, you're crushing it. You're cruising. So I'm going to set up very key specific times for you to have whatever you need to help you progress. But generally the dogs I see like that, man, they do really well at soaking, just marinating, and you give them a problem set, and whether, we're getting our corrections in so they learn, or we're getting our rewards in so that they learn, as long as they learn, you can put them up for a day and let them think about it, and you get them out, and man, you'd be surprised just how much better they'll be after that little bit of marination. But in the bird dog world, man, that is super common, where you get these crazy, uncontrollable, to bring out a working dog term, shitstorms, right? And they can't settle. They can't, they've never been capped. They have no control, no obedience. They can't manage their arousal or anything. And I have to teach people the difference between drive and arousal. Right. And that's huge for them, because everyone sees these hyperactive go, and they say, oh, that dog's got a lot of drive. I'm like, does he really? Does he really? Or is he just easily aroused and can't come back down? Right. And the way that I explain it to people, and it's not the truest definition, but it gets across to my audience, my clients, easier than if we go down like straight definitions, right?
Yeah.
Is drive is a dog's willingness to pursue a behavior or item, prey, whatever, through pressure, right? How much will you go through to achieve what you want? All right. Well, look at a Malinois. Will you jump through the broken glass window to get the bite?
Yes.
Right. Or are you just going to sit on the outside and wait for it to come to you? And then when you do get it, you're happy. Right. Like, what adversity will you push through to get what you want? Right. That tells me how much drive you got.
Yeah.
If your arousal is just simply that, it's, oh my God, I'm so excited and I can't stop. Right. I'm going to climb, and I can't change gears and settle myself. Now we can help those dogs. And that's the beautiful thing about NEPOPO, right? Is it teaches you what that dog needs versus the other one. Where do we need to insert ourselves? Do we really need to cap over here, or do we really just need to teach over here? Right. And there's difference.
Yeah. And well, you brought me to another question, and I know we're kind of going all over the place, but it's such a good topic. So I had a guy reach out to me, and he was asking me about, and the reason I say this is because we're talking about it, the dogs being crazy in the kennel, like barking nonstop. Now this is a hound, barking nonstop. In fact, let me just pull it up and read it to you, because I want your opinion. I want to know what you think. Let's see here. It's going to be way back. Let's see. Y'all just hang on. I'm digging through messages. Digging. She may be way down in here. But it was good. I mean, it was really, and I wanted to hit on it on one of my What's Up Wednesdays. I'm like, yeah, I'll talk about that. But since we're kind of hitting on that behavior, it's just like, yeah, I need to talk about that. So that's 21. That's a long time ago. All right. No. Let's see. Let me just look it up. Okay. Here you go. So this, and I'm not going to read all the messages, but it says a topic for What's Up Wednesday is, I'm sure we could use about kennel manners, puppy pains. And we talk about puppies, mainly barking in their kennel 90% of the times. So they go, when he pulls in, they start going crazy, which mine do that, but it's a 2-minute blurb. And now if it's feeding time, my dogs do bark, and I don't try to correct them for that. And of course, I've got a bunch of horses, right? I mean, my neighbor's horse fence literally backs up to my kennel, and the horses will stick their heads over the fences and rub back and forth, and my dogs will bark. The older they get, they quit. It's like they age out, kind of thing. But anyway, he was talking about puppy, puppy manners, puppy doing it. So what's your take on that? And what's your take? And then I'm gonna give you my take on it.
Yeah, I don't play the Hound games, so they've got a big genetic predisposition to bark.
That's right.
You're battling that, so keep that in mind. Like they are genetically gonna do that. For me, with bird dogs and pet dogs, let's just talk about bird dogs first. If you've got plenty of drive, right, and you are barking in the kennel, I don't need to worry about you handling birds, engaging birds, being okay with getting out there and ranging and questing and searching and hunting. Now I will put a bark collar on that dog, right? Because
what age?
At what age will I start a bark collar? 4 to 5 months.
Okay.
Right?
Now,
yeah, but you got to remember, I'm teaching pressure.
Okay.
Very
that was
early,
my question.
right? These are my personal dogs, right? Like
Yep.
Teaching pressure very early.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. Well, that was my question. Like, are you going to prepare for pressure before you just? And that's where people go wrong. They just slap a bark collar on there. The dog don't have a clue what's going on. It's like, and and then next thing you know, you got one spinning in circles and barking all crazy. Like if you don't prepare for that, that's the behavior you get.
Well, and it depends on the environment that you keep your dog in for puppies, right? Like my dogs stay in kennels inside my kennel, right? So I can manage some other things versus being in an outdoor pen where they have a lot more freedom to make their own decisions, right? If I need to remove a dog from the kennel and put him in a quieter place, isolate him by himself, I can do that to manage some of that barking and show him, hey, if you're going to mouth off, you're going to stay in here. The moment you're quiet and we let him settle for a while.
Yeah.
Now I will let you out. I think a mistake that people make is they put a dog in a quiet place, dog settles, right? And actually, can rest in this cap state. And then they immediately take the dog and put him in a different drive, right? So we've taken the dog out of drive and let them settle, and they figured that out. Then we immediately take them out of that settled state and put them back in drive. Where if you'll just let them coast there for a little while and just settle down, and then go in and let them out, that will work out better for you most of the time. There are your hard learners where we need to yes, as soon as you're quiet, we're letting you out and teach them that way. But I think those dogs are few and far between on the puppy side of things.
So one of the things, Randall, that I guess I've been doing it for a while now. is all of my puppies are young dogs. Even if it's something I get from somebody else, it don't matter the age, but most of my dogs that I get from other people are, no more than 3-4 months old. I'm teaching two things at one time. Is I don't let my dogs bust out of the kennel. Like you said, I want them calm. And that way when they come out, they're calm. And that way when I load them in the dog box and I get to my hunting area and I open the dog box up, I don't have 5 dogs running over top of me. And I feel like that equates into what you're saying is, you don't just take the dog out and boom,
That's a Weimaraner.
Yeah.
Yeah. I promise that bark collar is on level 1. And
but that's kind of something I focus on two things at one time. Of course, they're in different things, but again, the Dutch guys, they beat it into my brain. A calm mind, dog can think. Calm mind, dog can think. And of course, this goes into a whole other stuff that we talk about all the time in the hound world, but I feel like that limits some of the craziness I get there. Like I've got 7 puppies right now. I can go out there and stand at the gate. They'll all 7 sit down at this point. I've not taught them to sit. I ain't told them nothing. They'll sit down and wait on me to open that door.
Yeah.
And I've done nothing but be patient. Like I hold the door. No, you're not coming out. Wait. And when they give me that you know what I'm talking about. They give you that, okay, all right. And then, okay, I open the door slow. I don't slam it open. I don't, start yelling and screaming. I just open the door. No talking. I open the door and I walk away. And they walk with me and they're like, oh, I'm free. And then they go on about their business.
Yeah. I mean, and that's just part of the art of living with a dog. I mean, we can go down the theory of it all, but you got to build a dog that you want, right? So it depends on the dog in front of you. If I've got, take this showline German Wirehair that I had, right? And they wanted to turn the dog into a bird dog. Well, she was timid, scared of everything, couldn't handle pressure, terrified of a bird. I will allow her different things than I will allow a dog that comes out and he's just ready to hunt from the get-go, right? Not scared of anything, ready to drive through brush, handles pressure well. Like those dogs get treated differently, right? So if I have that dog that needs drive building, I will let them bark in the kennel. I'll let them shake the truck, right? I will let them drag me on a leash to the bird field. Show me you want it, right? I will use all of those tools and thoughts and theories and methods to build more drive, knowing that I can come back and put brakes on that dog later because I'm not worried about that part. You've already shown me that you got plenty of brakes. I need to build gas, right? Versus the dog that shows up who's cloudy minded, go, highly aroused all the time, plenty of prey drive. That dog's going to be in the kennel. He's going to be waiting when the door opens, probably wearing a bark collar in the kennel. Because like you said, and it was a good example today with the dog that I was training this afternoon on birds. As soon as we pulled up to the field, and I should have prepared and put a collar on him before I left the house, but as soon as we pulled up to the field, yap, right? And the bird just muddying up that brain from the start. I said, no, we're not doing this, right? Put a bark collar on him and let him settle, calm. You can think, chill out, quit driving yourself up higher and higher and higher. And he had a great run, very clean, probably his best run with me so far. And I was very happy with his performance, but that's knowing which dog needs what. Right? So with him, we do need that calm, settled. We're not going to sit here and bark and spin and put ourselves into a high state of arousal and get to a point where we can't think. Now we're going to start using pressure levels and that are too hot. And it turns into, instead of focusing on the work we came here to do, now it's just drive capping and obedience. When if I set myself up correctly, we can avoid that problem. Now, don't get me wrong, we need to come back and visit that conflict and make sure that we're good. But that is set up specifically for that, right? There are times to carpe diem, take advantage of it when you see it, absolutely. But if I'm going to go in and try and cap, that's something that I'm very clearly set that thing up specifically for that, knowing and being ready with the right tools immediately to handle that problem. But if you just set yourself up, build the dog you want. If you want the calm dog coming out of the kennel, standing there waiting to be released, standing on the tailgate, dressing themselves, waiting to be released off the tailgate, start that from a puppy, sure. If that's what you want. I personally will build drive. Maybe too much. Like my puppy is, obedient. He understands pressure. He understands all the cues. He's very enthusiastic. He's very poppy. He wants to do the things. He's very operant. He's trying to earn reward and offer all these behaviors. But he's up here, right? And I do from time to time have to bring him back down. And that is doable for me, right? But maybe not the flavor for someone else. Now, eventually, we will start putting some more rules and methods and things on there, but there are other ways to teach those exercises outside of the arena that we are going to eventually use them, right? So we can teach those concepts here in the kennel and then take those out to our bird field or take those out to our tracking area or wherever we're going to go with it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've said it 1,000 times, and I mean, I guess I preach it more at canine training that if we have something going on, we take them out of that environment. Like, I'm not going to teach obedience while I'm running odor. Like, no. Like, we're odor recognition. Am I working on my search? Am I working on X, Y, and Z? But if I got something else going on, then we separate it. And I've said this 1,000 times. 5 minutes a day in the off season, because you got a lot of it here in Virginia, especially. You can accomplish a lot in 5 minutes a day during your off season. No, you can get the loading and the leading, and like we're talking about, a little bit calmer manner in the kennel, and like there's so much stuff you can do that's very, very non-time consuming. Like 5 minutes, and I'm a big believer that if you occupy the dog's mind and you're giving him stuff to work on and do, like I said, just 5 minutes that day, a lot of times that mental stimulation takes care of that other stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they have drives and motivators that need to be satisfied. And if you can satisfy those incrementally throughout the week in these small chunks, then you're not going to have the big explosive blow up most of the time.
Right.
There's a dog out there that'll, prove us all wrong on that.
Yes.
For sure. Especially
there's always an anomaly.
Well, especially your working dogs, they know what's up when you pull up to the training area. They've seen that meth house before and they know there's a guy in there with a bike. They know it, But yeah, I mean, like, I'm like you, if we're similar, if we're having issues working odor or, whatever, I'm probably going to stop there and go back, work on some things, and then slowly build my way back up to where I have that obedient dog. Probably I'm not going to run odor for a little bit, work on my obedience to the point where I can have it in this environment where the dog knows what the game is, and then we'll start that game again. But I mean, you do have to get to the point where you are working at the root of the problem, but you got to back up to get there. You can't just attack it right there. Most of the time, some dogs, yes, especially if they've been trained and they're very capable, they know the behaviors, and now we just need to maybe cap, and that's what we're doing in that environment. Like, okay, yeah, I get that. You see that a lot with retrievers. I mean, they know the behaviors, they know how to turn off pressure, they get into the bird environment, they see the wingers or the bird boys, they see the water, and they start going bananas. And, okay, so guess what we're going to do? We're going to drive cap here now, right? But you got to be thoughtful, mindful, and
purposeful
when you're doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
If I'm going out to do that, then that's what my session is for.
Yes. It's one thing at a time. Like, I'm not trying to accomplish 5 things in a session. I'm trying, and I mean, Franco, I don't know if you know Franco. That was one of the things I learned from him a long time ago and we were doing building searches, and I've used that as an example. We were trying to work on, I had a young German Shepherd, which is laying right here right now. I mean, he wasn't a year and a half old. We was working on building searches, and I was trying to work on the alert on the door to bark. That's all I wanted to do.
Oh, that's civil alert. Yeah.
Yeah. So I went to the threshold of the door. I give him announcements. I send him in, and he's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Doing a building search." He goes, "But you're wanting to work on the vocalization, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, let's work on that." And that's when, it made sense to me that I was trying to do 10 things, and it was confusing the dog. Like, the dog was like, "All right, well, what do you, I'm doing the announcements. I'm laying here. I'm being calm. I'm being alert." And I go in and I'm searching. I find them. And, so yeah, when Franco broke that down for me, it really made sense. And I know I probably mess up a lot, but I really try very hard to single out the behavior and work on that behavior.
Yeah.
I'm not working on
you
the
can always back chain it, right?
Yep.
You can always back chain it from there with something like that. We can start with the civil alert at the door and teach that, and then we can work on figuring out which door it is, and then we can figure out which hallway, and then start from the threshold of their announcements.
Yeah.
Something like that.
But I think
we were similar when we were doing it, very much, hey, here's the end of the hallway. There's only one door.
Your only option. You don't have an option. Yeah.
The boogeyman's behind the door. The dog can smell him. He's playing peekaboo. Yeah. As soon as you get anything, boom, here you go. You know, ask for a little more until, just whop, 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 whop. And then there you go. And then just, like I said, back chain it from there and make it harder and harder and harder.
Yeah. No, I like it. So, Randall, before we end this up, I know we talked about NEPOPO a little bit, but how would you say that this has this, like, and maybe this is a wrong question, because you and I mean, you understand that all dogs are different, and the NEPOPO method works on most dogs, or would you say all?
Man, you can't put an absolute out there.
Right. It's so most.
You can't put an absolute out there. I would say that 99.9% of the dogs in a good quality qualified NEPOPO trainer's hands are going to be successful. And that may take different amounts of time. That may take different techniques. That may take, whatever you got to do. I'm not saying you get it done in 3 weeks. Right.
Yep.
But within the system, within the methods, within the theory, you can, I think all dogs, without putting an absolute to it, will be successful within the system. But again, it's open to the interpretation of the user. It's still open to the user's experience level. If someone's focus is on pet obedience and not aggressive behavior modification, then probably, you still got to research who you're going to and what their specialty is, right? It's not a one size fits all for the individual trainer, right? The system, I think, will encompass all, but you still have to base it off of what does your trainer do? What's their experience level? What's their focus? And things like that. So, I'm not going to be doing show ring obedience. I've never done that. Right. I'm not saying I couldn't figure it out. And certainly the system is prepared to teach a dog to do that. But that's not my forte. Right. People come to me for drive building bird dogs that are a little wishy-washy on what they want to do. Right. Or high drive bird dogs that need mostly capped and taught some manners and then how to handle birds. Right. And then we've got the military law enforcement side of things, which is growing, and then the pet dog world, which is the gambit. You never know what you're going to get with them until you speak with them. But
yeah,
I would say that the system the system itself will catch a very, very, very wide variety of dogs. Still do your research on your trainer and what they specialize in, what's their experience. Talk with them. If they're like, yeah, hey, I'm comfortable with that. I understand how to apply the principles within the system to accomplish the task that you're after, and they can thoughtfully speak it out to you, then you're good to go, right? It's still dog training at the end of the day. The system's phenomenal. I love it. It's very thorough, and it's capable of training a very wide breadth of dogs. But you still have to verify the individual that you're going to trust your dog with. And then, we already talked about it, but like the beauty of the system in my mind is arming trainers or just handlers or dog owners with the ability to look at a lot of different dogs and a lot of different behaviors and think about how to break those things down into very minor steps, right? And build off of those things, whether I need to take away some enthusiasm or add some enthusiasm. I think Bart would say, one dog's had a little too much whip and not enough sugar. And this dog's had too much sugar and not enough whip, I think is how he generally paraphrases, but breaks it down. And knowing the techniques and principles used to adjust to those dogs and what do they need, right? If I've got Fluffy who's timid and scared, I'm probably going to do a lot of mark and release, getting out of behavior, a lot of indirect reward, put them on a variable quickly and have a lot of fun, a lot of games like that, right? A lot of positive reinforcement versus a dog like I have right now who's a little crazy in the brain, and pressure is the answer for that dog, right? Calm, settling. I'm not upset with him. It's just simply, if you do this, this stops, right? And that has settled him a lot. I mean, he is night and day difference from when he showed up here. But you just understanding, what's my reward schedule like? Where am I paying? Where do my markers fit in with all this? Where does my pressure fit in with all this? And the system arms you with all of that background knowledge on all of these principles so that you can make those informed decisions based on the dog in front of you. And it may even change, right? Like it's changing with this dog right here in front of me right now, where it started off one way and now we're slowly morphing into another one. So, because there's certain things that come with teaching a dog with pressure, right? If you're not going to shape with pressure, which, definitely make sure that you know what you're doing before you start shaping with pressure and that you're armed with the proper tools to do so. Because you can cause training issues, right? You can cause some issues with the equipment or you or the environment or the behavior. So you be really careful when you do that. But, if you're shaping, you're teaching an active dog, a thinker, someone who's problem solving and they're hunting behavior and they're trying to figure it out, right? What do you get with that? Usually a little more gas, right? A dog that's active and hunting and looking and trying to figure this out. He's a problem solver. Versus a dog that we're just showing with a leash, right? Or luring into a position, right? They only know what we teach them. They can't figure out anything else because we're showing them what the answer is. This is what you have to do every single time. I'm not giving you the ability to figure it out. I'm telling you what the right answer is and you do it. They're really good at those behaviors, but they only know how to do those behaviors. So now you got to be careful with pressure and make sure that as you get towards the later stages that they truly understand before you apply it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, like I said, I always find it interesting. And like I said, I try to catch those classes as much as I can to learn more. Maybe one of these days I can, well, maybe not after you and I talk. But
man, and everyone says it too, is that, from the time you graduate gold, right, it's 5 years before you truly understand the system. And I'm not going to lie to you, man. I walked away from Gold and I'm like, oh my God, my brain hurts. I'm not sure what all I just learned, right? Like
Yeah.
I walked away from there. I was like, all right, I know I picked up a couple things. Like I know I got better at this. I know I got better at this. And I was talking to Nick Adair the other day. And I was like, man, every day I wake up and I realize something else I learned, something else that's changed my perspective or changed the way I do something or the way I communicate with a client or a dog. Every single day I wake up and I'm like, man, all right, you just slowly digest more and more and more and more. And there's some things within the system about, dealing with positive reinforcement or negative reinforcement or the combined NEPOPO with in how we start, where we work mostly, and what the finished product's going to be. There's some things about all of that system and those, what they call them learning pyramids, right? And man, those things are powerful. I mean, I use them daily. I'm teaching them to my employee. If people understood those things right there, I think even that would be light years for your average dog owner or trainer, because it lays out a thorough roadmap for you of, is the dog ready? If they're not, this is where we're working because we're getting them ready. Okay, now they're ready. So now we're going to sometimes inject ourselves and help. And then we'll get to a point where they're just doing it. But they do a really good job of laying it all out for you. And I don't want to ruin it for people that are going to take the course. I don't feel like that's my place, right? I'm just throw the bait out there and let you set your own hook. But I do recommend it. I think it's a very thorough system. Like I said, I've got a couple other people for you that hear their perspective on it, because it's similar, but it's going to be different than mine. It's always open to the interpretation of the end user, and that's the beauty of it. I love hearing everyone's different takes on certain things, and some of them I agree with, and some of them I don't, and some of them make me sit there and go, man, all right, I need to think about that. Like, okay, that's a really good thought experiment that I hadn't thought of yet. So that's the beauty of the system, man.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you taking the time off and sitting down and talking with us, and I hate to pull you away from the gym. Get your reps in.
It's my last workout before I go to Kansas on Sunday. So I just
nice. Oh, I caught you right.
Yeah, I go to Kansas on Sunday, so I just had to go get one very abusive gym session in before I don't work out for a week.
Yeah. I'm on that month, really. Of course, I'm getting to work out every day. It's just not the same type of workout. Not every day. Yeah. All right, Randall. Thank you very much for helping us teach, train, and learn, and taking the time to be with us this evening.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Do you like to be outdoors like I do? If so, unlock the wilderness with onX Maps. It is your ultimate guide to exploring, hunting, and conquering the great outdoors. With detailed maps, real-time tracking, and exclusive access to public and private lands, onX Maps is your key to adventure. Discover the possibilities and never get lost again with onX. So subscribe today using the promo code K920, letter K, number 9, 20, and know where you stand.